A lot of y'all parents are just shitty parents, and I don't want your fucking kids anywhere near my kid. So I recently had to block my daughter's best friend, and everybody's probably wondering why, but I think I did it for a great reason. So a lot of people like to be hard on parents when their kids are bad, not realizing that you could try your best with your kids, but when they go to school, they're going to meet friends, and some of these friends just aren't good friends. Like a lot of these kids, we don't really know who's raising some of these kids. Like I'm not going to sit here and act like if somebody's a single parent, they're going to raise a bad child, but there are some parents out there that they just aren't aware of some of the things that their kids are doing. So, my daughter's 7 and her best friend is already 8. So, they're in the same age group technically. They're in the same grade level. They're both going to the 3rd grade. But the other girl was my daughter's best friend, in my opinion, was a little bit more advanced socially. And that's because other people's kids are sometimes more exposed than your child. I mean, on my side, can't speak for mom, but I try to keep my 7-year-old away from a lot of adult stuff. I mean, when you think about it, some of these little kids have parents that are allowing them to watch R-rated movies as long as the parent is watching it with them. And I just say to myself, like, you can't do that because even if you feel like because you're watching it with them, you can explain to them that they shouldn't do it. Some things kids should not be watching. Like they should not be watching, content with curse words. And I feel like some of these kids, that's exactly what they're doing. And those kids have to interact with your kids and then they corrupt your child. Hence why I blocked her best friend. So there was a video I reshared on my Instagram, and the guy was saying that hey, if his son had bad friends, he would literally sell his house and move away to get his son away from those friends. And at first, I was like, damn, that is extreme. A lot of people in the conversation were saying that that is super extreme, but I kind of see why he's so extreme because if I had to sit down and think about all of the bad things that I learned when I was under 18, some of it I discovered on my own because I had a little bit too much freedom, but a majority of it, it was the other boys that taught me some of the bad things. And, the bad things for me, luckily, wasn't criminal because, I have relatives where their friends did criminal stuff with them. And lucky for them, they were minors. So it's been expunged and, wiped away until you do something stupid as an adult. But for me, luckily it wasn't anything criminal, but there's just a bunch of things that, your parents wouldn't be happy if they knew you were doing them that you learn from your friends and at some point you figure out, okay, what I did there was wrong. I'm not going to do that again. There are things that you don't think are that big of a deal that realistically that your parents wouldn't be pleased with you doing it, and it might not be illegal, but it's just like they would just frown on you doing it. But again, you pick it up from your friends. So I wanted to nip that situation early with my daughter because what ended up happening with my daughter and her best friend was I think again this girl is more socially advanced than my 7-year old. She's already 8. She seems a little bit more exposed than my daughter. I'm not gonna crap on somebody else's child, but I'm just being honest. I don't know what goes on in her household, but she wasn't really the one that was giving my daughter direct problems, but I spoke with my daughter's mom since we co-parent, and she goes, "Oh, she kind of sensed that that friend was a little bit like I knew that she was annoyed with my daughter because my daughter's younger than her, mentally, and my daughter's not 8 yet. But instead of just saying she don't want to be a friend, what she was doing was she was just kind of dropping these subtle hints, sending her, smiley faces with the straight face, kind of like the annoyed face. And her mom caught on. My daughter's mom caught on to it and said, "Hey, she tried to explain to my daughter that she doesn't really want her talking to her, but at the same time, she never reached out to me and said, "Hey, we should stop allowing her to text the other girl." But I ended up seeing something from the other girl's boy cousin that really pissed me off. So I told my co-parent I found on my daughter's iPad, which honestly, I feel like you need to check your kids' devices. I don't care how old your kid is because I've seen stories where 17-year-old boys they have the tracking app on their phone, and their mother found out that they're sleeping with the teacher based on that. And a lot of guys they kind of frown on that because for some reason a lot of y'all wanted to sleep with your teachers. You never grew out of that phase. If you're a parent, I don't think that's the way you need to be thinking that you'd want your 17-year-old son sleeping with a teacher. But because what if she gets pregnant and then now your son's got to pay child support? Or what if he catches an STD? Like, y'all don't be thinking like that. Y'all just be thinking horny. But yeah, I feel like you need to track your kids because some of these kids, man, they they're really corrupting your kids. So you could do the best with your kid, but if they're hanging out with kids that aren't good for them, then all that good that you're teaching your kid is going to go right out the window. You can try to teach them to be a strong leader, but they're going to see things from these other kids and they're going to say, oh, that kid's cool and they're doing stuff that's wrong. Maybe I should do stuff that's wrong too. But back to the little girl. The little girl didn't really do anything outside of just show that she was annoyed of my daughter. And I told my daughter, I said, she called her one time, she didn't answer. She called her 3 times. I said, stop calling her. If she don't call you back, she don't want to talk to you. So I've been trying to get her to stop being friends with that girl, but just kind of like give her the hints myself. But once her cousin, who may be a little bit older, maybe he's 9 or 10, once he came over and started taking her iPad and started messaging my daughter, I was able to read the text messages and the stuff that he was sending my daughter. A kid that's under 10 years old should not be saying the stuff that he was saying. Little dude was texting my daughter F you and telling my daughter to get a boyfriend, which to me shows that her friend was using her cousin to bully my daughter. And so I told my co-parent, she reaches out to the girl's mother and I said, yo, tell the girl's mother that I would like to speak to his parents. And then my co-parents like, oh, that's too much. I don't know. Y'all let me know if I was doing too much. I feel like if your kid is bullying my kid and saying stuff that adults should be saying, like curse words, the N-word and all that shit, like I need to talk to your parents. I don't need to talk to your auntie. I need to talk to your parents. Like who's his parents? But she reaches out to the girl's mother and the girl's mother forces them to apologize. I see the text messages come in. My daughter sees it. And I just take her iPad and I block the numbers. So, they can't talk to my daughter. She can't talk to them. I deleted the text message thread. I blocked their numbers. My daughter is not at the age where she can unblock them, so I'm not worried about that. I'm hoping that my co-parent did the same thing, but I kind of feel like that little boy got off easy because if it was me and only me, and I knew the mom's number because I don't know her former best friend's mother's number, I would 100% be looking to talk to that little boy's parent because he's saying a whole bunch of stuff, which I screenshotted and sent to my daughter's mom, and I don't know. I think women just y'all let kids get away with too much. I'm not saying it's every woman, but a lot of y'all women are too soft, and I can see why a lot of people get upset at single moms sometimes because y'all allow a lot of fuckery, as my peoples would say. It's just a lot of fuckery. Like you can't have a kid behaving badly, especially boys, and you scared to let their parents know, or you scared to almost like you scared to get them in trouble. Which, I would like to think that his auntie, which is my daughter's former best friend's mom, would have told his parents what he was doing because that is extremely inappropriate. I don't want no little dude telling my daughter to get a boyfriend. She doesn't need a boyfriend at 7 years old. And honestly, when I read the text messages, I was just pissed, man. And man, I don't know, man. But yeah, I had to block her. So, my daughter found out she wasn't too happy about it, but she's 7. If any parent disagrees with me, I can see why some of your kids are bad as fuck because you guys aren't willing to do what's necessary. And sometimes to do what's necessary, you might have to move your kid to a different school. You might have to block some friends. You might have to block some friends or tell them to stay away from some of those friends, although sometimes they don't listen. But in this case, she's 7. Hopefully, they don't have the same class next year. Worst case scenario or best case scenario, she's at a different school because that little girl is not her friend. I don't know what she was using my daughter for, but obviously, now that school is out, my daughter is useless to her. So she when they play Roblox, she's playing a whole bunch of mature games that my daughter would never play. It's like Kill, Sprunk, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And she's again in the same age group. So a lot of y'all parents are just shitty parents, and I don't want your fucking kids anywhere near my kid. So any more kids like that, man, I'm gonna tell my daughter, look, I'm gonna have to see how the parent is, and I'm gonna be a hubble parent because she's still young. As she gets older, she'll have more sense in terms of picking friends who actually want to be her friend because that little girl was terrible. But yeah, that's why I blocked her. I blocked her because she was using her cousin to technically abuse my daughter and say a whole bunch of like ridiculous shit. Like I've never seen under 10-year-old talk like this. Like, some of you parents are shitty parents, man. Just keep your fucking kid away from my kid.